Hey guys, it's ADAWGZ and welcome to my channel. So today I will be doing my Bigbelly deck profile. I know we have not hit our 100 subscribers, but I just thought, it might be time just to do it now since next year we'll probably be getting a new stride, and I just want to reveal the deck for what it is now for this manner that we're in. So with that out of the way, I'm going to be revealing the grade ones, twos, threes, then zeros. Only because the main focus on this deck is the early game. I've incorporated an early game in the deck, and you'll see what I mean. So we'll start off with the grade ones. So we'll just reveal them all right now, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll just line up the grade ones for you guys. So we will start off with the PGs. They'll be easier to explain. So we have the Elementary Sanctitude. So it's the Order PG. So if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 4, you can just discard this card and it guards the attack completely. It also gets around guard restrictions and stuff as well, since it isn't played on the Guardian Circle. So a really great card all around. Next we have the Revision Scientist Bigbelly. So yeah, it's PG, but we run it because of its second skill, which is GB1. You can soul blast 1 when the unit's retired from Guardian Circle or Reguard Circle. If you have a Vanguard with Bigbelly in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, you can draw up to 1 card and counter charge 1. So what we're looking at here, again, is the counter charge and the draw 1. So essentially, when we discard for the Bigbelly, we get refund of that cost for drawing 1, which is good. And then the counter charge 1 helps a lot, since this deck is very CB heavy. So it pretty much ticks off 2 things. We want to make sure that when we're guarding and stuff, we're not using too much of our hand, as it starts to get into a problem where if we're using too much shield because we kind of have low shield value in the deck, we start to get a kind of a bad situation. So that's why I run 2 of the Daily Bellies. Next we have the 2-level Pangolin. So auto GB1. During your main phase, when the unit is placed on Reguard Circle, you can choose one of the upper Reguards. Until end of turn, it gets auto Reguard Circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacks the Vanguard. If the unit's power is 20,000 or greater, you can soul charge 1 and choose a card from your damage zone and turn it face up. So hitting a 20,000 threshold in this deck is very easy to achieve. Legitimately just going to any of your strides and you will legitimately hit that threshold. We have ways of standing a unit multiple times as well, so you can get those multiple soul charges and counter charges off a lot. So very good card. I've only managed to fit 2 on the deck, but I would not go any lower than 2. Next we have the Intelligent Assassin Bigbelly. So this is the top 5 grade 3 searcher that a lot of decks run. It's just a solid card overall, can help us fix our grade 3 rides if that does arise. Search for heal guards and other grade 3 key pieces, which you've probably seen in the thumbnail anyway. And then lastly we have the Honorary Assistant Bureau. So when it's placed on Reguard Circle during your main phase, choose one of the other Reguards. Until end of turn, it gets auto. When this is put into your drop zone from Reguard Circle during your end phase, search for up to 1 grade 3 card, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. So again, that'll let us to search for our heal guards, our Bigbellies, if we don't have the right Bigbelly in hand. Also the rhinos, because you've seen that as well. Pretty much anything like we're lacking, it'll help us find that. So that's a grade 1 lineup. I feel like it's very solid. I don't think I'll change anything at the moment with it. It works good for me. So next we'll go to the grade 2s. This is the spice. So these are our grade 2s. Now we'll go with the elephant clearly in the room, which is this lady here. So it is the Protopolin Raylolius. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry, guys. But its skill is when it's placed on a Reguard circle, you can counterblast 1 and call up to 2 plant tokens in a Reguard circle. So the reason why this is good, and my run in here, is it has multiple applications in the deck. So first of all is that we have an early game. Yes, you heard that correctly. We can make an early game relatively easy. If we, as long as we ride just a grade 2 and then call this little lady out on a Reguard circle, we have a front row, because we will have the plant girl here, we have the Vanguard here, and then we have the two plant tokens. And we've essentially made that relatively not committing too much cards from hand, which is kind of the aim. We don't want to be calling too many cards from hand, except we're still trying to rush, but we're not trying to overextend and really fuck ourselves. So that's why we run this lady here. And later on in the video, we do run some G-Guards that have good impressions of her as well, which actually help us plus a lot more cards too. So she actually does a lot more than also just the early game. Next we have the Crown Tiger. So we only run 2 Crown Tigers. Yes, you're probably wondering, Adam, why are you running 2 Crown Tigers? Well, of course, Crown Tiger is still a very great card. Don't get me wrong. I still want to run 2 in the deck. Because I want to kind of have a higher grade 2 count as well, because I want to always up a grade 2 game. But the reason why I run 2 of the Crown Tiger compared to possibly the Bigbelly, which is going later on, is because, first of all, you need a grade 1 to set it up, and it doesn't have a way to keep it on board if we go against control matchups. People can easily snipe this off. If they see what I'm doing, they'll be like, oh, okay, yep, it's a Crown Tiger. A lot of the decks have a way to remove this card, which is bad, because if we go in for multi-attack and stuff like that, by getting this sniped off, it reduces our multi-attacks and pretty much just get rid of our pressure. We don't want that, so we still run 2 though, because obviously not every matchup has the Nile Griffin, but in those scenarios, we have that. Next we have the Problem Child Bigbelly. I'll just switch these little dudes around. Might be able to see it a little bit better. I'll move this around too. Alrighty, so the Bigbelly. So it has success 20,000. So how success works is when a Reguard hits 20,000, doesn't have to be itself, the unit becomes successful. So if you have multiple success units on the field, as long as one unit hits that threshold and they see that threshold, they all become successful. Alright, and it's auto on the Reguard circle once per turn, GB1, you can store +1. So when it's successful and attacks the Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Bigbelly in its card name, you may pay the cost, and if you do, you can choose up to 2 of your other Reguards, and on 2 in a turn, they get +4k, and on the Reguard circle, at the end of your turn, draw a card retire the unit. So the reason why this is very, very strong in this deck is, if you know what Bigbelly does, Bigbelly has a skill that when you retire by a card's ability during each battle phase, you may draw a card. So this will allow you to sack those Reguards. So Bigbelly set the trigger and draw cards, but Bigbelly will also draw cards on top of that. So you can kind of see Bigbelly as like when you play it, attack, so +1, draw 2, which is really good. It's essentially like next to soul isn't really a problem too much in this deck. So it's relatively easy cost for a draw two. That's what else can I say? That's great, So that's why I definitely run 3 of them. And then the last card is the Lesserata. So it also has success. And then it has continuous skill on the rearguard circle. If this unit is successful, all of the units with its accessibility get plus 2k and have the Vanguard and rearguard circle of resist as a con skill. And then on the act on the rearguard circle, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1. This unit becomes successful until the end of turn, and then at the end of turn, retire this unit. So Lesserata is good for a couple of things. So first of all, giving the rearguards and the Vanguard resist. That's a thing that we need to worry about. Because again, once we go up against decks that have full control and stuff that can just be used during our turn, it can be a problem. And we don't want to be put in a situation where we're going for like a big combo and they can easily disrupt it. So because of that, I run the Lesserata. The Lesserata stops the opponent from disrupting the board. But then the reason why it's also good is because of its second skill. So not because it becomes successful, because we'll always hit that, but because you can retire before grade 3. The reason why that's good is because usually in other builds you might see Spoolmary and you might also see Measured Fossa. Both those cards are good grade 2s, but the only problem is that those grade 2s can't activate the abilities until you hit grade 3. Now, if you're going second and you get the stride first, and let's say you don't have certain grade 3s and stuff in your hand, but your turn's gonna be lackluster. But because you can use this early game with Mike Sabiro, for example, wrong pile, we'll get into that later on. So if you use that early game with Mike Sabiro, for example, you can retire that in the early game. And you can search, I don't know, if you're missing a Bigbelly, for example, you can search for Bigbelly. Or, if you need a Hill Guard, you can search for Hill Guard, You can do this in the early game. You can do this before you hit grade 3. So that's why I also run the Lesserata. And I'm not going to lie, Lesserata has helped me so many times with not having to misride, because I was able to use its skill to retire itself and give it skill under Max Bureau before I hit grade 3. So this is, I honestly think this is good for those two reasons: giving things resist and being able to retire earlier than other decks, other Great Nature decks typically. Now another thing I should point out too is that you could also just use it as an 11k attacker. The reason why that's good is because Force decks obviously hit for 10. So again, we have a lot of 9ks in here. There's no 10ks and stuff at all. So sometimes if you're versing a Force deck and you're using the Plant Girl, you won't always just be able to ride Plant Girl, call the column. You might have to use the Plant Girl to call the tokens behind her and the Vanguard so they hit. But in a scenario where you have to do that, if you have a Lesserata, you can use its skill. So you have the Plant Girl, the Vanguard, they both hit, so there's a plant behind it, and you have the Lesserata, which also hits 11. So they all hit Force numbers. So that's also a reason why we run the Lesserata. So overall, all these grade 2s in this deck are very solid. They all work pretty well. These most of the time work well in the early game, but in the late game, these all still have an impact. So that's why I run these grade 2s. Righty, so getting into the grade 3s. So, our star of the show, my little man, I love him a lot. And then the other two cards. So we'll go off with Bigbelly first. So when our regard with high cards ability, during each battle phase or each end phase, you may draw a card. And then auto on the Vanguard circle, when it attacks, you can counter +1. Choose one of your 20,000 or greater regards and stand it. If you have a grade 3 in your soul, stand all of your 20,000 or greater regards. So you will never proc off Bigbelly second skill. That's fine. That's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for its first skill. We want to draw a bunch of cards, so we always have a big healthy hand. That's the idea behind Bigbelly. Next, we'll go over the talented rhinos. So it also has success, just like the other two regards, and it has the continuous ability GB1. If this unit is successful, this unit gets power plus 4k, and your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards to Guardian Circle from hand for the battle with this unit attacked. So, the fact that this can stop the opponent from using grade 0s means that since a lot of decks do run perfect guards, or majority of the big shields are grade 0s, this shuts out that. And because of that, you can sometimes make the opponent's guard a lot wonkier or harder to guard, because since they're guarding with grade 1s and greater, they're guarding with key pieces. And the guarding key pieces, it means it can make their turn more lackluster. So that's why we have two of the rhinos. He's essentially, I think as someone said before, it's kind of like a sword and shield of the deck. He's very, very strong. Yeah, honestly don't know what I'd do without him. He has a lot of crazy interactions going into the strides when we get there. He does a lot for the deck. Next we have the amazing Professor Bigbelly. So it also has success. And then it has two other skills. So on the Vanguard circle once per turn, this unit is placed on the Vanguard circle, or when your G unit strides, choose up to one card from your hand, call it a regard circle, and it gets plus 4k power until the end of turn. If you call a card and at the end of the turn, draw a card and retire that regard. And then its second skill is on the Vanguard and Regard circle. You can counter +1, it's GB1. So you can counter +1 at the end of the battle that this unit attacked. If this unit is successful, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of the other regards standard and it gets power plus 4k until the end of turn. So but again, when looking at the third skill technically of Bigbelly, so it allows us to restand a regard at a battle attacks. But the reason why I again run more of this card compared to the Crown Tiger, sorry, just had a bit of a brain fart there, sorry guys. So the reason why I run that over the Crown Tiger is, first of all, it is searchable with Mike Sabiro, and potentially searchable from your mini belly if you can reveal it. And then the also reason why I run it is because it can be put under the effect of Lesser Rider, since it has the success ability, so which means it can't be touched. So that's the reason why we run more of the Bigbelly opposed to the Crown Tiger. If you have to ride the Vanguard, Bigbelly, sorry, it is gonna hurt, but at least you can still get some form of draw. But yeah, hopefully you don't have to get into that situation where you have to ride that. But yes, that's why I run those grade 3s. Next, we'll go into the grade 0s. So a starter, he's a good little man, he's got a little adventure, so. Alright, now, you're probably thinking, what the fuck, why am I running this? Well, we'll get into that. We'll leave that last, a little bit of spice, Okay, so first of all, we run the strike crits because all our grade 3s are key pieces, and we don't have to discard them. As I said, you don't want to be discarding those grade 3s as you want them on board. You know, one's a combo Sundial, one's a soldier on the deck, so you don't want to be discarding it. The only card you can discard sometimes, I think is okay, is the V Series Bigbelly. That's probably the only card to discard, but most of the time, if we have this, we discard that instead because, again, we don't want to be getting rid of it. Next, we have the Hill Guards, so again, self-explanatory. But again, they can also be searched off Mini Belly and Mike Sabiro. They do also help in the early game if we are getting pushed really hard, because then we can use that to give our Vanguard 10k, and hopefully that cancels the turn or makes it easier to guard. We run the Over Trigger because the Over Trigger is very, very strong in this deck. We also have a little OT combo that we can do in the deck too, and because we can give a unit a crit, if we have a way of standing it multiple times with a million power, it can honestly sometimes mean game. Next we have the Free Curious Pony, so it's it's the Insole plus 10 draw a card crit. So this is again really nice card to have. Wizard plus Soul kind of replaces itself, which is good too. If we need to do that, if maybe again low on soul and stuff as well. And then we run Sentinel crit. So we're essentially running a crit. Again, I think a crit's fine. You could run more if you wanted to, but yeah, I think that I feel like I'm pretty fine with running a crit. And then next we have the Watering Elephant. So it has success, and then it also has the auto regard circle GB1. So you put this unit in your soul. When your other regard is put into the drop zone during your end phase, if this unit is successful, you may pay the cost. If you do, call a card that was put into the drop zone to an open regard circle. So since we're going over all the cards, I will explain some of the interactions that are in the deck with the Watering Elephant. So it has interactions with this, and then pretty much every single other card in the deck. So reason why we like running the Water Elephant is, again, if we retire the Great Eagles, for example, if we have ample counterblast that does it in the turn, we can use a Watering Elephant to suck into the soul and call it out, and then create 2 plant tokens. So once our field has died, we can generate some extra reguards for 1 hour G guards to plus even more. And then also she's really good to revive key units we want to keep on board for another turn. So the example is Talented Rhinos and some of our attack extenders. Because again, most of the time, a lot of our strides, once they die, they don't come back. So that's why we run the World of Elephant to bring those reguards back, so we have them there for another turn. But but again, she's just also really good with this combo with the Playing Girl being able to create more reguards when she dies. It does come up a lot, because there's another way to obviously create more reguards during the opponent's turn. This is a much easier way of not wasting multiple heals. So that's why I run Free of the Playing Girl, Free of the Watering Elephant. Also, there's a stand trigger. So sometimes we might swing of a regard first sometimes in some scenarios. So by having stands, if we're lucky enough to hit one as well, we can get some more multi-attacks off. So I'll explain maybe a little bit more why the stands stand trigger is good when we get to our G guards to kind of maybe help make a little bit more sense. As I said, it probably kind of sounds weird right now, so So first of all, we have Caladrius. So Caladrius' skill is actively once per turn, turn a card from user and face up. Choose all of your front row regards, and they get power plus 10 till the end of the turn. And at the end of the turn, retire those units. And that second skill is when each unit attacks and counter plus 1. Choose one of your regards with 30,000 or greater power and standard. And it gets auto regard circle when the unit attacks until the end of that battle. When your opponent will call cards from a handy guidance circle, they must call 3 more at the same time until the end of turn. So this card works great with this gentleman here, the Talented Rhinos. As we explained before, Talented Rhinos does not allow your opponent to call grade zeros. So if we put it under the skill of Caladrius, when Rhinos does attack, they can only call grade 1 or greater units. And with Caladrius' skill on top, you have to call 3 grade 1 or greater cards to the guidance circle to guard the attack. So it's a very good combination with Caladrius and the Talented Rhinos. If you have multiple attackers as well, you can use Talented Rhinos more than once when he attacks. So you can have more of the guard con going on. So usually when you have one Axel circle, which you usually have, Talented Rhinos will reach 30k, because again, Talented Rhinos on an Axel circle would be 16. Use Caladrius' skill, becomes 26. He'll give himself plus 4k successful, hits 30. So again, we can swing with Caladrius and counter plus 1, stand him, he's under the effect. Swing with the guard free, we can swing, stand, swing with the guard free, swing, stand, swing with the guard free. So as you can see, it's a very strong first turn stride, which is what we need. And since we also have an early game in the deck as well, which is what I was explaining before, if we get the opponent like on 3 damage or 4 damage before we get into our first stride, we can make a really big impact, which could potentially just let us win first stride. So that's why I rerun the one Caladrius. Caladrius is a really good stride. I don't think he's going to be cut out for a while because he's actually really good. So that's why we have the Caladrius. Now, if, for example, we don't have enough multi-attackers, for example, maybe not have too much counterblast, or maybe the opponent's on lower damage, maybe Caladrius isn't the best option to go into sometimes, unless you're confident that Caladrius might be the best way to go. And you've seen you driven stripe checks and kept on track of it. But in all these other case scenarios that you seem Caladrius isn't good, we do have another first stride, which is the Managama Aurum. So it's act on the Vanguard circle once per turn. You can counterblast 1 and turn a card from your user and face up, and put the top card of your deck into your drop zone. If it is a normal unit, until the end of the turn, one of the units gets power plus 10k, and if it is a trigger unit, this unit gets drive plus 1, and we perform that 4 times. And then second skill is auto on the G zone once per turn. If this card is face up, when your Vanguard attacks, you can soul blast 1 and call a card from your hand to regard circle. So, if again, if any of those scenarios come up, Aurum's still good, as if you do mill multiple units, or pull multiple trigger units and stuff as well. Managama could typically be like 5 drive checks, and you can give all of that to a regard. And by doing so, you can also make a very powerful regard as well. Even if you have one restander, you can still have that regard swinging twice for a big number. So, but in a scenario where you might only have, just say, we'll go a Rhinos again. So we'll have him here, and just say we only have one Bigbelly. And this is only 2 counterblast turn, but this is still a very strong turn. So you'd mill 4. Any normal units you get, you will give all the power to your runners, so you can make them really big. And then you'd swing with your Aurum. Any drive checks you get, like crits and stuff, you can give on to the runners to make him bigger and more threatening. And then you can swing with him under, again, the restriction of not being able to guard with grade zeros. And since you have one attacker which can restand the reguard, you can have him swing for a big attack again too. So Orum's still a very strong card as well. Definitely don't overlook him. He's still very strong in this deck. That's why I run one Managama Orum. Next we have the Omniscience Dragon Tip Calm. So when your card is put into the drop zone from Reguard Circle or your deck, you may put that card on the bottom of your deck. And then auto on the Vanguard Circle, when your Reguard attacks, you can soul +1 and turn a card from your G zone face up, and that unit gets power +5 until the end of the battle for each card face up in your G zone, and at the end of the battle retire that unit. So first of all, the main thing we're looking at is it's first you're being able to put a card into the drop zone from Reguard Circle or your deck. You can put it on the bottom of the deck. So if our, just say for example, if our deck is really low, let's go get some, I got some tricky little actual markers. We'll just say our deck is 2 cards left, just as an example. And we have a cheeky little overtrigger here. So what we can do is we call over the overtrigger and put him on the deck because of Tip Calm's skill. Which means, since we only had 3 cards left in the deck, we're guaranteed to now hit the overtrigger. So it's really strong. Now just do keep in mind with the Stoicheo overtrigger, when it is removed, you have to draw 2 cards. So you will need to have at least 6 cards minimum to make sure you don't deck out if you go over this play. So this is also again a very strong play to do as well. Now there is something else you can do with this stride. It's still kind of good if you have a lot of soul. But what you can do, you can kind of do like a standard, turn with Tip Calm stuff. I probably use Tip Calm in the later stage of the game. He gets stronger, like another stride will be going into soon. So what you can do, also if you have a Managama Orum flip face up, we'll just say these are your reguards pretty much. There you go. Alright, so you're seeing with these, blah blah blah, yep. Bam. Right, you can use the skills from the bottom of the deck, and then you can swing with Tip Calm. You can use Orum's skill, which again was when you Vanguard attacks, you can soul +1 and call the card from your hand Reguard Circle. So what you can do is, again, since you still have that adequate amount of soul, you probably have a lot of genius face up right now. You can call out a Predator girl here, and then call 2 plant tokens, and those plant tokens are going to be really thick. So essentially, you can make 7 attacks on this deck with only having, again, just 3 cards in front, and then having a plant girl here to create 2 tokens. So you get 7 attacks, but 7 big attacks. So that's something to keep in mind is what you can do with the stride. So there's a little interaction you can do to get more multi-attacks off and make them big. Because again, at the end of the stages of the game, you might have like sometimes 10 cards face up, maybe like 9 cards. So those plant tokens are only 5k, but they're going to become 50k and doing by doing multi-attacks. So that's why this plant is actually pretty good on this stride as well in the late game too. That's something you can do. So you can get more multi-attacks and really throw the opponent off guard. Really not expecting you can do something like that. So that's why, again, this plant girl is actually really good. Okay, next we have one Progenitor Dragon of Regal Birth Megaloma. So at the Strider step, you have to discard a card with the same card name as your Vanguard. So it's kind of like Ultimate Stride. And then it has a continuous skill on the G zone, so this cannot be turned face up by abilities. And if this card is face up, you can stride without paying the stride cost. And then auto on the Vanguard Circle, when placed, discard 2 cards from your hand. And for 1 time during the next turn, when you would lose, return all all of the cards from your hand damage zone to the deck and shuffle it. And put 5 cards on top of your deck into your damage zone and end that turn instead. So I don't typically go into the stride a lot. I'd only go into the stride where I'm probably going to be in a really bad spot. You know, may have been like rushed really hard and stuff like that, and I'm just in a... for some reason, I don't think any of my other strides will potentially put me in a good position. So it's kind of like, okay, so do I go into Megaloma and then see what I can do from there? What I typically do with Megaloma is I want to try and get 2 heals in my hand. And then what I will do is I will do double Spangled. So I'll go to Spangled quickly, because this kind of card is important. So what Spangled does is you can counterblast 1, choose a face down G Guardian from your G zone and turn it face up. When it is placed in Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose any number of your grade 3 or less Guardians, and until the end of the turn, they get when it is time from Guardian Circle, draw a card. So what I would do, for example, is I would someone might use it first or maybe a second strike, but anyway, so what you do is just say you have, I don't know, 10 cards left in deck. You know, I don't know how you treat that first stride, but just say, you know, it is, or second stride makes sense. What you can do is you can just say you have 8 cards in your hand. You put the 8 cards down and you double Spangled. When you double Spangled, you draw 10 cards and then you deck out. And because you deck out, Megaloma's skill will proc in the G zone, because I said for the next turn when you die, you put everything back, you deal 5 damage, and then you end that turn. So this is a way to end the opponent's turn if you believe that by doing this, you can get yourself back into a winning position, or put yourself into a better position. So that's the reason why I have this Megaloma. Again, for this, also I should explain. So again, you draw 16 cards. So you've drawn the 10 cards and then you deck out. So once everything's finalized, you know, doing your 5 damage and stuff, these effects are still active because you still have to resolve the effects, kind of like the critical trigger. If you're on 5 and they really crit, you take a damage, you go back, you put 5 back, you still take the other damage. That's the same with these as well. So you can still draw 6 cards, so you have at least 6 cards in hand, and you probably draw for turn as well, so you'd have 7 cards in hand. So you have like a little decent healthy hand, so you can actually do something next turn too. So that's why I run these. These obviously don't always have to use the Megaloma thing. You can use this as well if you're trying to get a better hand, or you're trying to really dig for something, I don't know, trying to dig for the over trigger turn or something as well. As I said, you can put little cards down, double Spangled, and draw a shit ton of cards. Next, yeah, we have a lot of one-off strides. The next one is the Omniscience Dragon Vanguard. So, continuous in the Vanguard Circle, this year gets plus 4k for each of your regards, and then continuous GB3 and counterblast 1, soul last one, which units put into your G zone from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, at the end of that turn, choose all of your regards, retire them, and for each unit chosen with this effect, draw a card, soul charge 1, and counter charge 1. So, this is kind of like a oh shit button, best way to put it. Actually there's 2 things, but I'll talk about that oh shit button. So if you're in a bad spot, you need to draw like a lot of cards to make sure you can stay in the game. Vanguard is here to help, as that combined with Bigbelly, you have to draw 2 cards under Vanguard's skill. But also to keep in mind as well, you do have to soul charge 1 for each card as well. So keep that in mind. Next is for control matchups. Since you have mainly against Link Joker, the best example, if you need to clear your board so that they can't lock anything, Vanguard is also an option there too. As I said, you can generally retire everything, so then they can't lock anything on your field. So that's why Phineas is in here. Next, we have 2 Boloral. So Boloral is a stride that will stand for the test of time. He is an absolutely phenomenal stride. So his skill is act on Vanguard Circle once per turn. You can solve +1, choose a face down card from your G zone and turn it face up. Choose all the units in your front row, and until end of the turn they get auto on the Vanguard and Rearguard Circle once per turn. When this unit attacks, hits a Vanguard, draw a card, and it gets +4k for each face-up card in your G zone, and at the end of the turn retire those rearguards. So as longer the game progresses, the stronger your rearguards are going to get. So sometimes you might have 5, 6 or 7, rearguards cards that you get face up. So they will become very, very big rearguards. As I said, if you have attack extenders like your Crown Tigers and Bigbellies, you can proc off multiple attacks, and you can sometimes just kill the opponent on that. It can make it a big devastating turn. I don't ever think this stride's ever going to be taken out. It's just a strong stride. Also, for the fact that since Boloral sacks your front row as well, you also get to plus a bit more of Bigbelly too. So that's why you run 2 Boloral. Again, very strong stride on the later stage of the game, and it's also another way to finish the game off. Another great finisher is the Omniscience Dragon Managama. So this is a very old stride. So it's on the Vanguard Circle once per turn. You can counter +1, choose a face down card named Omniscience Dragon Managama from your G zone, and turn it face up. And if the number of face-up cards in your G zone is 2 or more, choose 2 of your rearguards. Until the turn, they get power +4k and auto rearguard circle. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, if this unit's power is 20,000 or greater, until the end of the battle, your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from hand to Guardian Circle. So, I think hopefully you guys picked up something very quickly. It can be used very well in combination with your Talented Runners. So your Talented Runners on a actual circle is 16. Managama will give it +4k, we'll make it a 20, and it'll also get 4k because it's now successful. Now remember, Runners doesn't let you guard with grade 0s. Managama doesn't allow you to guard with grade 1 or higher on the selected units you chose. So if you chose Talented Runners, the only thing your opponent can guard with is with G-Guards. So if you have a couple of cards that can send Talented Runners as well, you can potentially have an unguardable Runners swinging multiple times. Now this is, as I said, it's not as strong as, well, I think it's pretty strong like Zora as well. Honestly, it isn't as old because obviously, you just can't honestly win the game when it hits. But if you can have a way to send Talented Runners multiple times, essentially the opponent can just sit there and just take all the damage because they can't guard the attack at all. Now, another thing I really like about Managama 2 is if you go first and you have a card G-Guard in your hand, if you push the opponent on 4, once you G-Guard, you can go straight to Managama, and you can potentially just one-shot the opponent from there if you have a few counterblocks and stuff open. Because again, you'll G-Guard, so now when you use Managama, you will have 2 cards from the G-Zone. So potentially, which has happened a lot for me too, is you can kill the opponent on first stride with Managama, which sometimes will be stronger than any other first stride you have in the deck. So this is a very powerful stride. I know it's an old card, but it is a very strong card to have in the deck, especially since it works absolutely great with Talented Runners. Alrighty, so into the G-Guards, we've already talked about the Spangled, so we'll go into our other cards. So first of all, we have 2 Head of the Bastion Ardillo. So this is placed in Guardian Circle. You can choose any number of your rearguards, retire them, and if the number of your open rearguard circle is 3 or more, this unit gets power 10 sorry, gets power 10k shield until the end of the battle. So it becomes a 25k shield, pretty much. Alright, so the reason why this is good is with this little lady. As I said, if you use her in the early game, when you're rushing, Ardillo will refund the cost for the cards you've caught. Actually, you plus 2 more technically. So if you have a G-Guard, essentially this is a plus 3. As I said, you've called her and you've called 2 tokens. So a G-Guard's like, hey, I get the plus 3 in hand. But as I said, in combination with the stand trigger, what you can do at the end of the turn, if you have her on the field and she is retiring, you can, once I find my goddamn triggers, you can call it, you can call her back at the end of your turn, and then call her out, use a skill, and have 3 cards for Ardillo. So you get to put more pressure and you get to even dig deeper even more with her. So that's why I really like her. She's a good plus engine with Ardillo. And as I said, if you have her in the hand at the end of the turn when she's retiring, you can put her back, get those tokens back as well, because you've already plus those tokens with Bigbelly during your turn. But now you can make more resources to retire Ardillo during the opponent's turn. So that's why I like Ardillo a lot. You know, it can help you plus a lot. Sometimes I've had a full field, you know, and it's been like, okay, I'm okay with getting this field, you know, with an axle circle, has 6 cards. I've placed Ardillo down, and I've drawn 6 cards just for 1 G-Guard. It's very, very nutty. I really like those a lot. Now, so if you don't have the stand trigger in your hand, let's say you have, you know, multiple playing girls in your hand, if you don't think Spangle's the correct play because you have a lot of good cards in your hand that you don't want to put in the Guardian Circle, what you can do is you can use our Mirage to call 2 of the playing girls down, as long as you also have 2 counterblast too. You can call 2 of her down, make 4 playing tokens, you have 6, and then after that you can Ardillo, and then just sack all those playing tokens and the playing girls and draw 6 cards. That's another way to generate more cards to retire for extra draw power, if you need to do that too. She's also good again as well, having resist. I think sometimes we might need to protect a certain regard. So for example, if people are swinging at your talented runners, for example, you know, you've revived it from your stand trigger, and they're not in a control deck, so they're trying to swing at it. You can put the Mirage and then just protect the runners. So that's also a good little interaction too that I like. So the stand trigger actually has a few applications too. You know, you can bring cards back, and if you need to protect them, you can use our Mirage for it too. So a very, very good G-Guard. Also, she will be good when Anti-Elter comes out. I've done a demonstration on what Anti-Elter does for Great Nature. Check that video out. It's pretty cool. Then next we have 1 Omniscience Dragon Subset Avil. So when it's placed in Guardian Circle, you can counter +1, discard the top card of your deck, and perform one of the effects below depending on that card's type. So if it's a normal unit, this unit gets plus 20k shield until the end of the battle. And then if it's a trigger unit, you can choose one of the units and it cannot be hit until the end of that battle. So most of the time when I use Stride, I never ever get a trigger unit. So it's essentially just a 35k shield. Now 35k shield ain't bad, especially since with a certain other G-Guard we run, it requires a regard. So Subset Avil is another option that we can use. That's also a big shield, and if you're lucky, potentially a perfect guard. And lastly, the card we're referring to is the Immortality Professor Sankalpa. It's placed in Guardian Circle and counter +1, and if you do, choose one of your regards and that unit and your Vanguard get power plus 4k until the end of the battle for each of your open rearguard circles. Then, if the chosen rearguard is 20,000 or greater, you can draw a card. So, if you're looking to use Sankalpa, and you know your board is going to be wiped because you've used the stride that's going to wipe the board, well, if you have a stand trigger, you can use a stand trigger to, we'll just go Rhinos for example. You can use the stand trigger to call one of those rearguards back that you want, so that you can use Sankalpa. Again, so another good interaction that you can use with the stand trigger if you want to use a Sankalpa since you want to break it even. As again, if that unit hits 20,000 or greater, you get to draw a card. So that's another reason why you can run the stand trigger for that too, so you can help achieve the requirements of some of your G guards. Alrighty, and that is it for my deck profile. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please do leave a like. And while you're there, why not subscribe and hit the notification button so when I upload the next video, you'll be notified. ADAWGZ out. See ya.